Hello, my name is William. I am an English major and I am in the honors program here at Owens. As creative writing is a bit of passion of mine, I chose to do one of my honors option projects for this class in particular. As I am a self-published writer with a horror novel of my own actually available on Amazon titled Hellbound, my main interest in creative writing is not so much in either short stories or poetry, but in novels. Thus, my project was to write a paper discussing the character development of renowned horror author Stephen King. If by chance you do not know who Stephen King is, or haven't read any of his writing or watched any of the film adaptations of his novels, ranging from It to The Shawshank Redemption or The Green Mile, I would really recommend that if you read a lot, to try some of his books out. My paper mostly focused on Stephen King's magnum opus, his Dark Tower series, which is currently at a total of 8 or so novels. Out of all of his works that I could discuss, I really felt that if I was to be discussing character development, I would have to go with The Dark Tower. I began my paper with discussing an article from Writer's Digest, I believe, about the ingredients of character development. The writer of the article said that there were in fact 9 ingredients of character development: communication style, history, relationships, ambition, character defects, thoughts, reliability, it's a type of relatability, and restrictions. Every single one of those is as important as the other. A truly unique, dynamic character has to have their own way of speaking, their own thoughts, their own backstory, their own appearance, their own relationships to the other characters of the story, and they have to have ambition, because otherwise how is the story going to be moved along if the characters have no motivation whatsoever? But of course, they also have to have character defects. In almost all characters, there's going to be someone, whether it's a specific reader or the author themselves, that can find something in the character that they can relate to. Restrictions do not refer to character defects so much, but to actual physical, mental, or perhaps even emotional barriers a character possesses. In the paper, I was unable to discuss the entirety of the series because I don't know the exact size of the series word count wise offhand, but I do actually think it was longer than the Lord of the Rings series. I mostly focused on the first and the last novels of the series because they contain the most character development for the main protagonist of the series, Roland Deschain of Gilead, the Gunslinger. But before I began, I opened with a quote from Stephen King's On Writing. The most important is that the writer's original perception of a character or characters may be as erroneous as the reader's. I use this quote because the first novel, The Gunslinger, in the first novel, the reader doesn't really know exactly what to make of Roland yet. His actual name actually isn't even revealed for quite some time into the story. He's simply just repeatedly called by people the Gunslinger. The reader is given a very brief description of Roland's appearance, while we know very little about his goals or his motivations, other than he is apparently traveling through a desert in chase of a man in black. It's not really presented clearly in the story, at least not right away at that point. But indeed, the story begins right away with the protagonist in chase of, well, one of many antagonists present in the series. I'm not going to jump too far into the specifics because this presentation would be much longer if I did, and it would basically spoil the entire series if I did. So I'll simply sum things up a bit instead. I personally thought Roland was an extremely well-developed character that started out as more of an anti-hero who was just really self-centered. Not that he was evil-hearted or anything like that, but he simply just cared only for himself. All he cared about was to chase the man in black and eventually find the Dark Tower. At least towards the start of the series, he was willing to sacrifice pretty much anyone and anyone else without much hesitation if it meant it would accomplish these goals. The series, while it largely concerns the actual journey of Roland, it also concerns the personal transformation as well as redemption of Roland, who's just a really tragic character. Again, I won't spoil too much, but I will say this. This is definitely not the sort of series that you should be expecting will end with a happy ending where everyone gets what they want and then just goes off and lives happily ever after. As a matter of fact, what I personally took away from the Dark Tower series as a writer myself is that the perfect ending is in fact not always the best one. But, yeah, that'll about cover it for this video presentation. Have a good semester and have a good end of semester, and thanks for watching.